Hello everybody, I'm your host Jeff Krause, and today we are at the Millstream Classic Car Museum in Ogden, Utah. We're going to talk with the owner, Jack Smith, about his amazing collection of cars from the 50s and 60s.
Hi.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Krause.
Jack Smith.
Jack, nice to let us into the museum here. Tell us about your collection and how you got started, but let's start with this car. This is really neat.
Well, this is a 64 Citroen, very unusual car. The thing that freaks most people out is the fact that it has no springs or no shocks.
Okay, how does that work?
The suspension is totally hydraulic, and you can select the amount of ground clearance you want and therefore the stiffness or softness of the ride accordingly by a lever inside. It has 3 different positions. You can drop it down for freeway driving, nice soft ride if you want to ford a river or go through deep snow
Okay.
or so forth. You raise it up and you can go up as high as 11 inches of ground clearance.
Oh, wow. Now, I also heard that these cars don't actually have brake pedals as such. Is that true?
Hey, that is true. It's a weird feeling. They have what looks like a baseball on the floor.
Okay.
And the first time you go to stop, you wonder if you're going to stop.
So how does that work? Is it part of the hydraulic system as well?
It's part of the hydraulic system as well.
Oh,
there's no action, there's no movement like a normal brake pedal, so it's kind of weird.
Very interesting. This is both car and boat, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about the Amphicar.
Well, it's made in Germany. They only made them, 64 through 67.
Okay.
There were only about 3,000 of them imported to the United States, and I have guesstimates by different experts who think there may only be 10% of them left.
Wow.
That being the case, there's only about 300 left in existence. Quite a novel idea. In my opinion, they weren't a very good car and not a very good boat, but a heck of a collector's item.
That's really neat. So of course, no 50s car collection would be complete without an Edsel. They were only made for a couple of years, but what was the story behind this car? And why is it always mentioned when people start talking about 50s cars?
Well, the Edsel is synonymous with the word lemon. They acquired a bad reputation right off the bat. They're still studying the Edsel, trying to figure out why it was a failure. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many experts, the main problem was with the transmission. This was the very beginning of electronics in automobiles. The transmission is operated by pushing a button in the center of the steering wheel.
Okay.
It's called teletouch transmissions. You pushed a button, that told a little motor down on the side of the transmission which gear you're selecting.
Okay.
But it malfunctioned a lot.
Okay.
So sometimes you would never know what direction you were going, or maybe you wouldn't even go.
Okay.
They had so much trouble with it, they discontinued that feature mid-year. You could only get that in the early ones.
Okay.
The second half of the year, you could only get a 3-speed manual or an automatic on the column, but not the push button.
Okay. Okay.
The other thing that experts speculate was the problem was the radical design, the vertical grille, the horse collar grille. It just didn't fly. And they're still actually studying. The marketing people are still wondering.
But it was a spectacular failure, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, one of my favorite comments about an Edsel was that somebody said it looked like a Ford sucking a lemon.
Exactly.
Very good. Okay, so what other cars would you consider to be your favorite? If you could go through and pick, what car do you keep coming back to as your favorite car, and why?
It would have to be this 50 Nash.
Okay.
Just because it's so roadworthy and such a dependable, reliable car and fun to drive. My wife and I have driven both of these Nashes cross country. This one twice, this one once. This is just moderate pressure with one old wore out knee. Look how this thing, can you imagine how that rides?
Yeah, it'd be very soft.
Yes, because it has coil springs. Everyone else was still using leaf springs.
Okay.
Nash came out with coils on all 4 wheels for a superior ride.
And you were involved with the Yellow Cab Company here in Utah, right?
Yes, I ran Yellow Cab of Ogden for 27 years. This was not a working cab, it was just a PR gimmick. But we had a lot of fun with it.
Well, very, very neat. But it runs and drives, so,
Yes,
so
sir.
it's a functioning car.
Exactly.
It was never actually a cab.
Exactly.
Okay.
I have a 51 Mercury right outside that door that was a working cab.
Okay. Well, let's go up one car. Tell us about the 300 as out of BMW.
Well, that's about as small as they get. BMW bought Isetta out, and then they only made them a couple more years afterwards. But they were called a BMW Isetta. This is an Isetta 300, which means it's a convertible. Now, they all had the sunroof. This is not what makes it a convertible.
Okay.
What makes it a convertible is the back part, whereas on a normal car it would be plastic. On this one, it's, it would be glass. On this one, it's plastic. Which makes it, and it folds down, which makes it a convertible.
So it's actually pretty open. You get the windows open.
Yes.
And the roof down and the sunroof back.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this has one door.
One door. And there it is. Steering wheel is on a U-joint. It moves up to allow easier access to get in and out.
So I've heard that if you have trouble with reversing these cars and you pull up to something, you can't get out.
Well, they're so light, you can push it out pretty easily.
But if you can't get the door open, right?
Well, that's true.
Yeah, you'd be stuck.
I never thought of that.
Very good. And I see you also do tractors and memorabilia and all kinds of stuff.
Anything old, it attracts my attention.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for your time. We certainly appreciate you. Have a wonderful collection.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.